Okay, so you can see that I've finished the site, splitting everything. So everything's split now, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to start to add materials to them and color, so you can actually differentiate, between everything. But before we do that, I actually want to show um, two other commands, tools that are up on this. One is merge surfaces, and then the other is subregion. Basically, what merge surfaces does is it takes stuff that you split and just merges them back together. So you can see, if I click on merge surface and then I hit two surfaces, it merges them back together. So like if you ever make a mistake at some point, you could, you could merge, this whole block back together if you wanted to, and start all over, or say later on in the semester, and it gets to be, and you start to kind of like change different things. You can merge different other surfaces to kind of get stuff to coincide and kind of edit any of the site that you want to. The other command is subregion, and subregion, it works somewhat similar to split surface, as like if you can like create a subregion in a surface, so you can assign different materiality to it. And we could have used actually subregion to kind of do the whole site. But what's different is it's not a separate kind of entity where you see like I split this, when I split all this, they're different kind of things that you can click on, and you can actually edit the surface. So you can change the topography of like each and every single, kind of different surface. Where if I did subregion, and if I did a subregion, say on this part, when I click on this, the only thing I can do is change this material. So like only in that square the material would be different from this, but it's still the same, it's still one surface. And a lot of times when you do subregions, they can be very finicky when you have a couple of subregions next to each other. So that's why I like to use split surface. And the other reason, as I mentioned, I like to use split surface is because you can actually change a topography of something. So with the different surfaces that you have, you can actually click on one and hit edit surface, and you see it actually gives you now all the points, the elevation points around it. So you can click on them and you can see what all the elevations are around it. And as you're changing your topography, maybe you have some, raised kind of like earth or something like that you have to regrade your site, and this allows you to actually regrade it. So that's why I like to use the split command. So like you can see here, if I selected, basically if I selected all these and told it to be 20 feet, it would raise that whole thing up 20 feet, up to, the 20-foot elevation mark that we were at. And it flattens the whole thing. So it's nice to use that to help you to regrade. I'm going to cancel out of that so it doesn't do that. So those are those types of things. Two other tools. Another one is the property line. This one kind of just lets you create property lines. So if you're actually drawing property lines, using a plat map from scratch and you're using the dimensions to draw it, you could use the property line tool to create them. I have the property lines in, I brought them in with the file that I imported, lot lines and then parcel lines. And I have it, I did have the kind of like the phantom type line set up in AutoCAD, but I don't know if you noticed in the when I had them turned on before, they don't really appear, and that's because of the scales between the two programs. It doesn't match up. But the nice thing is, you ever see like you can actually override, a line. So like this line, I can click on override, and I can change its line weight, its color. And then I could also change its pattern if I wanted to. So I could add a pattern to the line itself. So if I did like a phantom, actually before I do that, let me turn on the actual lot lines. So I'm going to turn on the lot lines, and you'll see like some of the lot lines came in, and then I can override, and I can make them, make a color so you can actually see it. And then I'll change it to a phantom. Phantom what? I'll change it to a hidden for now. And then you can see, so you can always change the line work that you may bring in through AutoCAD. So that's kind of like a nice little feature as well. I'll clear everything. So to add materiality, it's actually pretty straightforward. Basically, what you have to do is you have to create a material form because Revit doesn't have them created. And actually the first thing that you're going to want to do is you can see actually we're in hidden line view. And it's probably best to do this in 3D so you can actually see. And obviously everything's in black and white with a hidden line. Shaded view will give you shaded with colors, but you can see everything's kind of like a grayish. And then realistic will kind of give you a preview of what everything is. And when you do earth, it comes in as basically dirt, so you can see that it's dirt when you switch to realistic. But I'm going to switch back to shaded because I like using that because realistic view, if you have a lot of materials in the view, it'll actually drag down how fast your computer goes. So if you try to zoom in, it'll take a while to zoom in. So I'm going to leave it on shaded, and you can change the color with shaded too, which I'll show. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a material for pavement, so basically all the streets. And this is kind of like an intro to materials. When we get later on in the semester and you guys start to do renderings, I'll do like a more probably in-depth tutorial on materials. But if you go to the Manage tab and click on Materials, that's how you get to the Material dialog box. And this is basically a list of materials that come in Revit automatically here. So this is all the types of materials that are kind of already set up in this file. There may be some that I've created before that are in here. As you can see, there was a couple of grasses that I've already created. But when you do when you start a project from default through Revit, like if you use the architectural template, they won't be done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new material, which is through this button down here. Hit create new material. It comes in as default. I'm just going to right click and rename it pavement. And then just kind of, it puts it in alphabetical order, so I just got to find where it went. And then, so under this graphic, like you see the three tabs here. There's identity tab, you can add information if you wanted to. This goes, Revit allows you to do kind of like cost analysis and stuff like that. So you could always, put all this information. Obviously, this would be more for like actual materials, like for wood and stuff like that. The graphics button changes what it looks like when you're in the shaded view that we just changed to here. So this color is affected by this. So for pavement, I'm actually going to put this color as like a black. So you can see the difference. Surface pattern, you could add a pattern to it. With earth, like with any topography work, this actually won't be accepted because this type of pattern can't go on earthwork. Or topo surfaces, I should say. But you could add these patterns to something, like a wall or something like that if you assign a material to a wall. And then a cut pattern, what would the pattern look like when you cut it in section? If there's going to be a cut pattern to it, and anything like that. You don't have to assign a pattern to this, because again, it doesn't take for a topo surface. And topo surface already knows when you cut it to show up as earth. The earth hash pattern for underneath, so you don't have to change that. The appearance is what the appearance is going to look like when it's rendered. And this is where you can start to assign materiality. Obviously, this is how you're going to assign materiality to any type of material that you create. But I'm going to show it quickly here for pavement because it doesn't take that much to do. Whereas you don't have to manipulate anything after you select your image. For other materials, you may have to. So basically, to get the material library of like all the different kind of image patterns that you can create, you click this button kind of up in this right corner of this window. And this brings you to the asset browser, which is all the different types of materials that Revit has in its catalog. And if you click on the appearance, these are the two that you use actually. Physical assets assigns stuff like weight and thermal properties, and appearance assigns stuff, like the actual images that they're going to render. So if you click on an appearance library and you go down to site work, you see this is all the different types of site work, and I'm going to pick this asphalt 2. All you're going to do is double click on it, and you can see that it assigns it. You see asphalt 2. So now that it's assigned, and then I can just hit OK. And then to apply it to the roads themselves, I would click on the roads. And then where it says material in the properties window, there's like a little button that you can highlight. It doesn't show up here, but if you hover and click, it'll come up, and then you just assign pavement. And now it changes it to pavement. And then, this is in the graphics view, but if I switch over to realistic, you see that it switches to like a pavement, for the roads. But like I said, shaded view, it keeps it a little bit easier to see. So now I'm going to do one for the concrete sidewalks. So I'm going to go back to the material library, and I'm just going to double check to make sure there's not something. Concrete paver. And that. Okay. So I'm going to just create a new material, and I'm going to right click and do sidewalk. And then in the sidewalk, I'm going to kind of do maybe like a grayish color, just so we can see it. And then for the appearance, I'm going to go to appearance tab, and I'm going to click on to open the asset browser. Go back to site work, and I want to pick like a lighter asphalt. For now, as you go on, you guys can change these materials if you want. But I'm just going to pick that so you can see like two different, gray on the black kind of thing. If you ever switch to the realistic view. And then I'm going to click all the sidewalks. If you hold down the control, you see that there's the control key on the keyboard, a little plus sign comes up on the cursor, and the control. So what that lets you do is it lets you select multiple things. So now I'll be able to assign all that materiality at once. And then you see I mistakenly picked the wrong one. If you hold shift, that lets you minus. So subtract anything that you selected. So if you ever select the wrong thing, you can just hit minus. And go for more. So, and then you see what I'm doing here is I'm hitting the tab key so I can cycle between different things, as I mentioned in the previous video. And then add sidewalk. So now everything has the sidewalk to it. So this is it for this video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add grass to these, to the rest of these. And then I might add some materiality to the train tracks, just so we can differentiate between the train tracks. And then in the next video, we'll start adding the buildings.